Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Spin Rack. We're doing a review of Napoleon, the film that just came out by writer, director Ridley Scott. We all know Ridley Scott. He's done some of the top movies: Alien, Gladiators, Kingdom of Heaven, just to name a few, Black Hawk Down. I mean, some of those movies that he's done were some of my favorites. So, a big up to Ridley Scott. So when I heard that he was doing a movie about Napoleon, I was like, I don't know what could be done because, Napoleon is such a huge figure, world figure. He reformed, being a military genius where he was able to conquer most of Western Europe. He fought battles in Egypt. He's fought battles all over Europe. He nearly conquered Russia. We're talking about like he was the biggest military generals around. He was a general by 26. He rise to power from a Corsican immigrant, went all the way to become the emperor of France and the man who dominated most of Europe. So wow, I mean, and then again, let's not even talk about his legacy, where we talk about he did the civil code, which basically laid the foundations for much of the legal code in most of the countries in Europe and throughout the world. His educational reforms, which were copied throughout the world. On top of that, something as simple as tin cans, for foods for his soldiers, which now, tin cans are ubiquitous all over the world. So this guy was not focused on one thing, one dictator living in one place, but someone who had influence throughout the world. And those are just some of the things I cited. So I'm thinking, wow, Ridley Scott, he can probably do a fantastic job of this. So I was very interested when I started hearing about it. And even though I started hearing also that the movie was going to be focusing on both specifically Napoleon and Josephine, I was like, but hey, she probably was his muse, But let's get into it and let's talk about what actually happened. So this movie is the main actor in this movie is Joaquin Phoenix, and as Napoleon, Vanessa Kirby as Josephine. So let's focus initially on the Joaquin Phoenix style of the movie, because Joaquin Phoenix, I think, while his choice of Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon throughout the entire film, I think that to me is what may have hurt this film overall. Joaquin Phoenix was and is a great actor. He's done many different things, but to have him portray Napoleon, at least in the dour, I guess sour Napoleon, that he is someone who you would not believe would have had the charisma or energy to pull off all the conquest of Europe, along with many of the reforms. We just did not get that with Joaquin's Phoenix portrayal. Again, I'm not sure if it was his idea or Ridley Scott's or just the way it was written. But, that to me is probably one of the weakest elements of the movie, and that you had someone who portrayed Napoleon who didn't have that, I don't know, that special sauce, that special something that made him, who he ended up being. In historical appearance, everybody said Napoleon looked like a regular guy, and nothing special stood out. But, he was a somber dude. He was. But in terms of rallying his troops, man, his troops were faithful, loyal to him to the man. I mean, they were going to battle for him no matter what the cause. And so here, you just never get that. You never get the loyalty. You never get the intensity that he used. He was a workaholic. He was a very intense guy, at least during his rise to fame. Now, Joaquin is a later emperor Napoleon, who, of course, is sitting on his laurels. He's not up to the same level that he was when he was younger, where he took on multiple armies at the same time. He reformed, had the rebellions in France. We just don't get that. We just get a couple of set battles that in this movie that, and I'll tell you right now, the battle scenes are gorgeous. The period pieces, they look fantastic. The clothing, but it goes to the essence of the film where the main person, you look at them and you're like, huh? Like, what is going on? Now, this could also be that the movie was cut down from what it originally was envisioned. And this is a co-production with Apple and Sony, and so this film is actually going to show fully. I think they're going to have a director's cut that's going to actually come out on Apple TV after it's run in the theaters, which had done pretty well. It's done like over $170 million, and so people saw the movie and clearly liked it, or enough of them did. The French, by the way, hated it. So That tells you something. I think the way Napoleon is viewed in English, is viewed very differently than it is in France. And I guess that's one of the issues there. Now, as for the Josephine part of it, I would think that someone who was as it was in real life, their relationship was a very volatile relationship. They both cheated, and that was in that time period. The elite, it was something normal that they did. They both had mistresses or lovers or whatever, and so I don't know if that was totally, it doesn't make it seem that Josephine is the bad guy throughout the movie, or her relationship. But the fact that her and Napoleon, Napoleon at least saw her as someone he loved. He definitely wanted her. He had her, and then even when he left her, he still had connections to her, and someone that he was strongly connected to. It definitely, in this film, they try to show that she was the cause or the reason, one of the reasons for his ascent, or after his fall, she wasn't there with him. I'm not sure how correct that we can characterize it, because some of the historical points are inaccurate, and I'm not even going to go into that. Some people can talk to you about it, but I'm just talking about overall the relationship. I think it was definitely her performance, and again, I don't knock Vanessa Kirby. I just thought, what was this woman who enticed Napoleon? I just don't get it. It probably could be both her and Joaquin Phoenix. I just don't get the attraction. I mean, for Napoleon, it's an obsession, but you don't understand the obsession. We don't get why he felt this particular way. Only that he was obsessed, and then he was obsessed that she had to have a child for him. And I mean, this is a woman who is clearly older, and she's past that time period, to having children, and he's just going on, and you're like, this guy is a little bit nuts, but. And she knew it. And we don't really get, to me, a fully understanding of Josephine and what she thought about Napoleon, how she characterized. Did she just join him because of who she was, an up and comer, and he was someone who could protect her and provide money? We don't know. And so I think that's also another spot. And I'm hoping that when the movie comes out in Apple TV, that many of these things many of the issues that I brought forward will be, there'll be more an explanation for it. Probably they'll really show who Napoleon is and who Josephine is. Another issue is the age of Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, he is so much older than what Napoleon would have been, particularly during his rise. And I just don't see that happening. There should have been two actors, really, probably a younger actor, and then Joaquin Phoenix. Again, I think I said earlier that he could have been the Emperor Napoleon. But I think those type of things, if they had been dealt with differently, I think could have made this movie a much more successful franchise than it is, or not franchise, film than it is. So, hey, that's my review. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, please like, subscribe, comment. Spin a rack out.